A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 104th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. More than a year ago, back in April 2020, we at Notebook decided to put together a series of webinars. Schools had just shut down, schooling was moving online, and new learning tools like Zoom and others were coming to the fore. We considered it our duty to create an event where educators could connect, discuss the various problems that they were facing with online schooling, and also get a hands-on experience of what Zoom webinars look like. More than a year and more than 100 episodes later, we have been humbled and privileged to receive the kind of love and support that this event has received. And for that, I thank each and every one of you. We have discussed a myriad set of topics. We have gone from holistic development to online classes, to excursions, to sports, to house systems in schools, the NEP, and so much more. Today, however, I'm taking you all back to that day in school where we first felt like scientists. I'm sure you all remember walking into that strange room in the school which had a skeleton hanging in a closet, or had all those pipettes and burettes and beakers arranged in neat rows on those shelves that really made you feel that you could cause the next big scientific revolution in that room. Today, we are talking about practicals. Over the years, practicals have changed quite a bit. What started off with physics, chemistry, and biology labs had eventually moved on to computer labs, then to maths labs, English labs, and today there are labs for almost every subject that you can think of. And why not? We want our children to learn in a more experiential way. To discuss this topic today, our first speaker is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as our senior advisor. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubayu, for that introduction. And a very good evening to everyone at Notebook. You, Abhishek, Achin, Meghna, Gogori, and a lot of them. And also very good evening to our esteemed panelists, as well as our guests who tuned in. I'm going to look at this topic from 2 points of view. As you mentioned, the practical aspects of school subjects. I'm also going to bring in something about practical learning per se. So the great old adage, tell me and I'll forget, show me and I might retain something, and let me do it and I will remember it for life. I think this probably sums up the whole importance of practical learning. Almost all subjects have 2 components. There's the theoretical and there's the practical. Whether it's riding a bicycle or driving a car, I think there needs to be some theoretical inputs before you get into a cycle. You should know what the brake is and where the pedals are. Similarly with driving. So after you have some of the theoretical inputs, then you are allowed to actually play with the equipment. But the practical part of it has always been more fun to students. In India, I think what we lack is the practical aspect. We are very, very theoretical. We are very good at our subjects and we get good grades. But if you look at our universities, we don't have so many patents and inventions, even in the IITs, as the MITs and Caltechs and other universities. We are not a very practical minded people because we are not taught practically. Now, having said that, the Indian word jugaad, which has no equivalent in any language, I suppose, really means to be very practical. And we can think on our feet. We always have a practical solution. We are extremely resourceful and innovative. And therefore, I am in a bit of a quandary. Are we practical or are we not? So I think sometimes we are very practical. And I'm also very surprised to see young people who are working as foremen and fitters and mechanics at roadside shops who've never been to school, who can fix a carburetor, who can fix a leaky gasket, who can take a car apart. I have seen children exploited in the carpet industry, never been to school, but they remember all the patterns, all the designs, all the skills have been picked up practically. Uh, like apprenticeship, they learn from their fathers, they learn from their elders. It's a handed down oral tradition. Now, this is the practical learning. They may not pass exams, but they're so practically competent. Now, if you look at children playing, it's all practical. They use play and they use simple resources like sand, water, etc., to learn about their environment. Later, this gets translated into helping mom cooking in the kitchen, mixing the flour and the eggs to bake a cake, or helping father with the car, handling the tools and taking out the spark plugs, changing the tires. And we all learn in different ways. And as everyone knows here, that Howard Gardner told us that each child has his own learning style. I mean, there are 12 to 16 learning styles. And so as a student in school, I took sciences and maths. So I learned through doing things. Lectures tired me. I love to open gadgets. I like to see the guts of things. Very often, I never could put them back together. So, but at least I learned. Therefore, I think today's teachers are very aware that children do not learn entirely by listening or writing. They need to be more stimulated, and they must be allowed to do things, make mistakes. In school, some subjects, of course, are more inclined to practical work like physics, chemistry, bio, and even geography, and even history, economics. But some subjects, by their very nature, are not, they don't lend themselves to practical. However, after having said this, even in English, there is an oral component. Art is practical, drama is practical, singing and music is very practical. Geography, history has practical. Economics has a lot of practical applications to that subject. I did geography in college, and I remember doing 5-hour practicals. So on land surveys, I dug into the soil to collect rock samples. We played with weather instruments. And of course, even languages. Today you have language labs in school. You have maths labs in school. So I think every subject has some degree of a practical component. Now, there are design labs, there are carpentry labs, there are robotic labs. There are places where you can make, flying aeroplanes, model airplanes. And kids love to be taken out of that classroom, and they love to go into the practical aspects where they get their hands dirty, especially plaster of Paris. Important to augment their learning through doing, actually playing, using their hands. And a lot of what we do in life, fixing switches, cooking, changing tires, as I said, opening stuck jam bottles, fixing a puncture, hammering a nail, would not be possible if we were not allowed to use our tactile abilities to handle gear, even cutting a paper, which is a very important skill that a 2-year-old learns. Who doesn't remember burning paper with a magnifying glass, sending signals by flashing mirrors, making a homemade periscope, magnetizing a pin, or simply playing with magnets or a pinhole camera, mixing paints, slicing a fish to cook over a camp stove. I didn't know, as I said, I used to take cars apart, and I learned about what happens inside, and I could never put them back together. One learns about buoyancy in a swimming pool. One learns about the laws of flotation by making a boat. One learned about Bernoulli's principle when you make balsa airplanes. How to mix ingredients is learned when one cooks. One learns about boiling points and the effect of pressure on temperature when one goes on a midterm camp and has to cook dal at 10,000 feet, and you find how difficult it is. A lot is learned in parks when you play with seesaws. You learn about levers and pulleys, momentum, centrifugal force as that swing goes around. I learned about refraction and high altitude winds when I went fishing with my father. I flew kites, and with the urchins I played with. I learned so many things by doing. I know a physics teacher who taught pitch and vibrations and sound just by bringing a guitar to class. And of course, one doesn't learn a foreign language without actually hearing it spoken by a native speaker, or by visiting a language lab, or by visiting the country. Now, there's nothing like doing something practically and watching the results and coming to one's own conclusion with what one saw. And that, of course, is the scientific method. Another name by which we can call a practical method is the experiential learning method. It's the same thing, where students play a game, do an activity, reflect on the results, and learn how they could do it better, learn what went wrong, what went right. And yet, some schools just don't have the means of having these large, well-equipped labs. I feel very, very sad when I visit schools and I find that these labs get stepmotherly treatment. They're in one corner of the school. They're not looked after, they're shoddy. And when I visited schools abroad, I found that lab architecture had undergone a big change. Labs don't look like they look in some of our schools. In India, we still have classrooms and a lab is separate. In most foreign schools, the lab and the class, the teaching space is all in one area. You can swing out your chair and get into a lab. So the entire lab technology has changed. And at the Doon School, we had implemented what I brought back, and we changed the entire architecture of our labs. Also safety. Do our children use safety goggles? Do they use lab coats? Just by putting practical periods at the end of the day, after class, putting the lab in one corner of the school, it shows the importance that we place on practical work. Sometimes we might say we enjoy practical work, we do offer practical work, but the way we offer it and the way we treat it just means that we don't, we're not putting our money where our mouth is. Also, as I had mentioned earlier, some of those gruesome practicals, like dissections in biology, we dissected frogs and earthworms and rats, all that has, come to an end. Now it's very much a virtual, bio lesson. However, in the field of biology and medical research, there is still a lot of practical work on animal samples like guinea pigs and rats and monkeys. In the days to come, as our education system changes in response to what we have learned from these COVID times, I believe classes will get more practical, and the theory will be done at home using the flipped classroom, using computers, online learning platforms like Notebook and others out there. And I'm sure practical work in sciences will be done, online as well, where students can move around in interactive sort of high-tech practical apps where they can move Bunsen burners and glass jars around the place. But having said that, the actual practical work that I remember from my school days, the smell of chlorine, the smell of ether, that would really be lost. Even assessments will need to change. Why this year we may not have had even written exams. All the exams have been cancelled, class 10 and 12. So as we look for new ways of assessment, we will also have to look at weightage that we give practicals. I think this 20-80 or 30-70 in favor of theory might have to change. If we want to be more practically oriented, we want to be more inventive, we want to bring out more patents, I think the weightage should be either 50-50 or even more weightage should be given to practicals. In the end, is it a fair system that gives children who like cramming and rote learning, giving them too much? I think there's also a need for the child who is not good at his subject and his books, but who may be exceedingly good with his practical work. I think that child too needs a great chance. And so therefore, I want to end by saying that they are both important. Without the theory, you can't do many practicals. And the practical is there to apply what you learned in the theory in real life. And I think that is true for life. I mean, we live by theory, by philosophy, by laws, by rules, and we also live practically. With that, thank you very much for listening. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful opening that you've given to this topic. I think this sets the stage squarely. One point, however, sir, that I have personally discovered when I was living in Kenya, the closest equivalent to the word jugaad that we have in Hindi is perhaps a Swahili word called juakali. In fact, you would be interested to know that juakali is an accepted livelihood method in Kenya. You can just fill out a form and say I'm a juakali, which literally means that I wake up in the morning and then I figure out what I'll do to make my living for the day.
Quite
Uh,
amazing, quite amazing.
yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
So just showing off my 2 bits of knowledge. Well, it is now time for our second speaker. Our second speaker is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Sure, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin.
Okay. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to today's session on a very interesting topic. Now, whenever we hear the word practical, instantly the first image, as Shivayu mentioned when he started the session, that comes to our mind is of our science labs. But I guess if you look at things from a more holistic perspective, I guess the importance of practical hands-on learning is far more all-encompassive, and be it any subject. I remember a few years back reading an article about the CEO of one of the biggest e-commerce giants. He was asked to take a training session for new sales recruits. So it was a long 15-day session. And at the end, the CEO was expected to come and give a presentation, say a few words to motivate the youngsters. Before taking that session, very interesting, before taking that session, he took a day off. He took a day off from his hectic schedule, canceled all meetings, all appointments, and himself took upon himself the task of delivering. So he went ahead as a delivery guy, delivering doorstep parcels in different localities to experience firsthand what these new recruits are going to experience the moment they're on the job. He took an entire day and he had that first-hand feeling. He came back, and when he shared his perspective in his own words, he was far more connected. So the moment we hear this word practical, I guess to me it's far more all-encompassing, be it any school of thought, be it any area of knowledge. But definitely, there's no doubt about it that these two words, science and practicals, really go hand in hand in common parlance. I remember reading a very famous few lines, a quote by Britain's Director of Science and Education, Dr. Gail Cadew. He once wrote, if our future scientists are not encouraged to develop the ability to test their theories through rigorous experimentation, or even more importantly, to develop the desire to do so. Kindly note, he is placing more emphasis on the desire. they will never be able to apply their newfound knowledge to help solve the world's biggest challenges. I think I really like this, considering the fact that it stresses on the desire and the fact that unless until this particular desire is developed, how do these students go ahead and actually solve real life challenges, problems, and add value to the society? Having said that, today, before this session, I was going through a few articles written around the world to ensure that I have a more 360-degree view of the topic. And according to some research, quite a few of them, there is a school of thought which strongly argues that there is little evidence that students are actually testing theories in practicals. According to those researchers, they are simply following a recipe in order to achieve a known result. There seems to be a current of confusion flowing through all this discussion about science practicals. Undoubtedly, practicals are important. There's no denying the fact. But there's a lack of consensus around why they're important. Some consider the acquisition of practical skills to be essential. But the question here is precisely which practical skills are we talking about and why? Does the ability of an individual student to carry out an experiment on his or her on her own really predict how well she might pick up new skills in a research lab, or for that matter, work in a team? How much does following a set of instructions, because see, as we discussed, it's fairly well set, right? So how much does following a set of instructions in order to discover something that is already known reveal about how real experiments work? Do practicals really help to motivate students, or do they just provide a welcome break from theory? Once the purpose of practicals are defined, I think it should be easy to plan them. The aim of some practicals may be to teach a particular skill or demonstrate specific phenomena or recipes would still be appropriate there. But the aim of others, we might hope, would be to provide students with the opportunity to generate their own ideas and design their own experiments, to experience the joy of discovery. I think that is most important. And to enjoy being creative in the classroom. Picasso once said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. Personally, I really believe in this. And it's a well-known fact that we don't grow into creativity. We rather grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. Now, according to UNESCO, in the next 30 years, more people worldwide will be graduating through education than since the beginning of history. So many more fresh graduates. And it's a combination of all things around us. So whether it be a function of technology, transformational effect of work, demography, huge explosion in population. So imagine suddenly, few decades from now, honestly speaking, these educational qualifications, degrees will really provide no assurance in terms of a secure career. So thus, it is really important to gain hands-on practical knowledge, which gives us the confidence to face things. Again, some people, and again, each student has his or her own learning cycle. Some people have an innate talent of remembering everything that they read. So I'm sure many esteemed educators here in this forum would agree that there are students who if they read something once, they do remember it. And there are others who need to really work hard to retain it. At times, theoretical knowledge involves, a lot of memorizing, a lot of mugging up. If you don't want a child to be a bookworm, always lost in a pile of books, then undoubtedly practical education is needed to be supplemented with theoretical training. So the entire concept of practically looking at things, experiencing it, and not only merely memorizing really helps in the learning process, and there is no doubt about it. Now, our brain tends to remember things at times for a very short while, unless until we really understand it. And at times it can be as short, or it can, or I'll put it the other way, it can be even be shorter than the duration of the test. Thus not serving the purpose, because our brain tends to forget things easily unless until we take interest in it, unless until we understand it. Thus, for example, learning a theorem or explanation word by word by heart. But the moment it is applied practically, or a particular concept being applied through experiments, real life projects, or say, for example, something being taught in a subject like geography, and students experiencing it firsthand through educational trips. Now, the knowledge and the whole learning experience really stays in our mind for long. The process is far more immersive. For instance, could we just understand the reflection of light had we not seen a mirror? Just by reading about a phenomena or a lesson, it cannot get straight into your mind, even though it may be explained in the best possible manner. We actually got to see it happening in front of us. For instance, an author writing very beautifully about the song of a nightingale. It's magnificent. But how does student know unless you listen to it with your own ears? That's a separate feeling altogether. And post that, that's an experiment, that's an experience which you cherish for the rest of your life. Merely reading a lesson over and over again at times can be of very little help. Undoubtedly, performing activities is far more useful. Now, as I think Burts also gave a very relevant example about learning a new language, either learning it just by merely reading books, or by actually trying to converse in it. So undoubtedly, the second option, or in the second scenario, learning outcomes are far, far better. Now, training and exercise are meant to improve our skills, which cannot be obtained by just theoretical knowledge. And we would all agree to this. For instance, if you go to for example, a chapter in engineering, unless it is being done hands-on, undoubtedly merely reading it would be of very little value. For instance, we have spent our entire middle school reading about, say, for example, a topic like trigonometry, reading about sine theta and cos theta. But when you actually grow up, and only when you see that subjects like trigonometry and their wonderful application, for instance, in architecture and other related fields, only then you actually appreciate, only then you actually understand, and only then it's a far, far, far more better immersive process in terms of applying your theoretical knowledge to practical aspects. Another very important aspect of practical activity, I think, is team building, because a lot of practical activities involve team projects or program where students are required to work in groups or as a team. For once, it improves the students' ability to interact with his or her fellow students and encourage them all for teamwork. It also makes the learning process more fun, as students are able to grasp more while learning in group. Now, children tend to have fun normally in each other's company, be it peer-to-peer learning, be it activities. So naturally, learning outcomes are far better in terms of as far as teamwork is concerned. Other aspect is, practical work has many clear benefits. For instance, if you look at things like practical science shows that students at first hand, students really tend to understand how scientists and technicians work. It engages, it really inspires students to follow or to pursue a career in that particular subject, be it any subject, because only then they get a hang of it. Also, as I was discussing about the challenges in terms of emerging jobs, in terms of what we may experience few decades from now, in order to develop this 21st century transferable skills that future employers may seek, undoubtedly critical thinking and problem solving are very, very important. And these things, we would all agree how important hands-on practical training is in terms of developing skills like critical thinking and problem solving. Now, coming to challenges in terms of practical education, undoubtedly planning and preparation can take time. Also, at times appropriate resources, finding space for all activities, and also ensuring safe environment, which Bert also briefly touched upon, is very important. Another challenge, I think this is really important to me. Very, very important. It is really important to make sure that students have clear learning objectives. So we do an activity, we indulge in it, we have fun. All that is fine. We follow a set process, we achieve a pre-desired outcome. Having said that, what is the learning objective? So students need to be very clear in terms of learning objective for a particular piece of practical that they're about to carry out. And also the entire process with different toll gates in between, which will help them reach the objective. Now, many students learn more easily by actually doing activities, especially in practical science subjects. But I think what is really important is that not only doing the activity, but being able to join the dots, being able to correlate it with the theoretical knowledge that they have studied, which will really help them grow in terms of confidence, gain understanding and skills, which will really help in terms of developing critical thinking skills and make them independent learners, which ultimately is the objective. Sociologist Harry Collins had once said that in science laboratories across schools in England, you can find children everywhere measuring the boiling point of water. Now, why? Everybody knows what the value is. What matters is why one child measures it to 98, another 96, and another 103. We all know. But the best part of it is how we go about agreeing to a result. So doing it hands-on, being able to work in groups, discuss findings, and arriving at a consensus. I guess that is the entire true spirit. Be it in terms of working in team, be it in terms of observing, interpreting, critical thinking, and developing confidence. So these are a few things that I wanted to discuss. We have a great and very experienced and wonderful panel here today. And I really look forward to the deliberation. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for sharing those wonderful perspectives on practical learning. Well, as Achin said, we do have a fantastic set of educators who are going to share their thoughts with us today. Before we do that, just a couple of minutes to tell you about Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech organization. We make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. Now, these videos come in handy in two places. One, when you as a teacher might want to use them to introduce your students to a particular topic. These videos, augmented with a lot of hand-drawn illustrations, give the students a very clear visual understanding of what is to follow. The second use case is months later when the students have to remember what you taught in class that day, perhaps before an exam. They have access to the same videos on their home systems, be it a laptop or a smartphone, whatever device they have at home, they can access Notebook videos on. And once they do, when they watch the same video at home, they get reminded of what you taught in class that day. What I'm going to do now is show you a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos on history before we move on with today's event.
Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah was an important and respected member of the court of the Mughal ruler Farrukh Siyar. He was appointed as the governor of first Awadh and then the Deccan region. The capital of the Mughal rule was in Delhi. So it was difficult for the Mughal rulers to control or administer far-off regions like the Deccan. The Deccan region was facing economic and administrative problems. Nobles were fighting amongst each other for power. Around this time, Asaf Jah took control of the region and changed its political and administrative structure by making new policies. He brought soldiers, administrators and mansabdars from North India and gave them responsibilities in the Deccan. He still served the Mughal Empire, but he had the right to make his own decisions. The Mughal ruler just confirmed his decisions. Thus, Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah founded the state of Hyderabad. The British were also gaining power in the Deccan around this time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a short snippet of one of the notebook videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, you would find more than 10,000 such videos catering to every subject, right from class 1 to class 12 of the CBSE curriculum. Well, with that out of the way, it is now time to introduce the next speaker.
Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah.
The next speaker today is Mrs. Sonia Bahl. Mrs. Bahl is a dedicated, high-integrity educationist with over 25 years of experience. She is motivated, energetic, and blessed with a multifaceted, pleasing personality. She has a positive approach to everything she does and is passionate about her profession. With experience in teaching and leadership roles in some of the best institutions of the country, including Good Shepherd International School in Ooty, Step by Step Global School in Noida, and Mount St. Mary's in New Delhi, she has provided leadership and mentoring to numerous progressive educational institutions by harnessing quality professional and people skills honed during a distinguished career. She is passionate about encouragement-driven learning. She is tech-savvy and conversant with the latest and best teaching practices. With her experience as board member of various army schools, she ensures relevant and creative content development with excellent administration. Till some time back, she was the principal of a residential CBSE school in Dehradun. Currently, she is mentoring students online on aspects of language and life skills. She is married to a senior army officer, is well-traveled, enjoys sports, and has versatile culinary skills. Her USP has been the ability to strike instant and deep rapport with her students. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Subayu Roy.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. We can see you very clearly.
Okay. A very good evening, everybody. At the outset, I must say I'm delighted to be a part of this August panel. I'm delighted to be in the course of my next 10 minutes or so, I shall be giving my take on the importance of practicals in education. To keep things interesting, a presentation of mine will be running alongside for you all. My talk is primarily based on my personal experience or over 25 years, as Subayu has just told you, as an educator. I shall be touching on two key aspects, respected panel: pragmatism in education and how can teachers incorporate pragmatism and practicals in the current environment of online education. So what does pragmatism mean? The word practicals is derived from the word practice. It is said that practice makes perfect. Hence, without practicals, education is incomplete. Pragmatism in education goes a step further. It is an educational philosophy that says education should be teaching students the things that are practical for life and encourages them to grow into better people. Pragmatists believe in the idea of practical learning, that is, education should apply to the real world. Hence, pragmatism is an approach to learning and teaching that focuses on keeping things practical. Pragmatic teachers use active project-based learning strategies in the classroom, virtual these days and focus on topics relevant to student lives. Pragmatism and teachers. Pragmatism regards teacher as a helper, a guide, and a philosopher. The chief function of a pragmatic teacher is to suggest problems to his pupils and to stimulate them to find by themselves the solutions which will work. The teacher and pupils attack a problem jointly. What are the principles for implementing pragmatism in education? There are 4 principles broadly of pragmatism in education. Principle of utility, of interest, of experience, and that of integration. Firstly, I'm going to talk about principle of utility. This means that everything that students learn should have utility. As my previous panelists, Mr. Burnett and Mr. Bhattacharya, have just thrown light upon. Utility implies that the student must perceive the learning as useful to him or her. Students do not particularly care about learning abstract theoretical ideas that they will never apply in their lives outside of school. We all understand that, I'm sure. Instead, students intrinsically desire to learn things that are relevant to their lives. By making things relevant and useful, students will be more engaged and eager to learn. For example, a lesson such as a day at a bank or the postman. Now I come to the principle of interest. Our curriculum content must also include the students' interests. It has been established that students have broadly 4 interests. Conversation, that's discussing amongst one another, which is so important. Peer learning is the best form of learning. I think we all agree. Investigation, by trying out and talking about new ideas. Construction, building onto the core idea. And creative expression, allowing students to give vent to their imagination and their creativity. Therefore, teachers should focus on creating lessons that involve talking with one another, investigating things through experimentation, making things, and being creative. Teachers should focus on creating lessons that involve talking with one another, investigating things through experimentation, making things, and being creative. For example, I'm citing examples now from my own personal experiences as an educator. Writing an essay or a story is nothing but a practical example of application of this principle. Here, you are putting to practice investigation, creativity, and construction. He or she researches, putting down his or her own ideas, impressions, getting his pointers. Yes, that's a prerequisite for the final essay. The child uses grammar tools as idioms, figurative speech as proverbs, etc. Assimilates, articulates, conceptualizes, nurturing his piece, and lo behold, we have a beautifully crafted end product. Construction, using vocabulary skills, grammar skills, sentence structuring, formatting, paragraphs, and you know more. Check. Everything but the kitchen sink has been included. Okay, I'm ready. What all did he learn and put to practice? Per se, grammar tools, parts of speech. Okay, vocabulary tools, as in punctuations, oxymorons, similes, metaphors, idioms, and you name it. Prior perceptions, graphics, as I have just displayed, other sources of information as social media. I must add, our webinar could be a useful source of reference. Now I come to principle of experience. Pragmatists value experience over all else. Students can learn abstract things all day, but unless they experience those things, they may never truly learn. Teachers should therefore create a lot of project-based, experimental, and experiential lessons that help children learn by doing. For example, like the lovely visual on your screen, learning science through videos or virtual tours Scuba diving. Yes, I've experienced it, though I have a real fear of water. I've experienced the scuba diving to the bottom of the ocean, swimming with the dolphins and whales. What is this? Nothing else. Experiential learning, my people. Principle of integration. Curriculum content is not a separate entity. Mathematics, science, and creative arts are not three different lessons. Instead, the pragmatic teacher links the curriculum content together through a process we call integration. The teacher will show students how concepts from different subjects are related to each other and encourage a holistic understanding of the topics they are learning. For example, a simple magic trick, I again just did it in my class the other day, wherein children took 2 bowls of water. They were all, mind you, really excited because it was a topic, it was a class of magic. In one, they put a drop of liquid soap, while the other was sprinkled with some pepper powder. The concept of surface tension became indelibly explicit. Adding practicals in digital learning. Practicals have suffered during the lockdown, and the question arises, how have schools bridged the gap? Now let's throw some light on this aspect. Education has evolved to keep the students' interests alive. Monotony in lessons can be broken by incorporating PPTs, storytelling, listening, comprehensions, and even picture talk. A few instances of how boring text has translated into more absorbing, fascinating ways to learn grammar or the language itself. Yes, I'm speaking about English, or may it be any other language. Phonetics, voice modulations play a vital role in tapping the child's creative side, turning their sleeping mind into independent, creative thinking ones. I hope I'm not boring you all, my audience. I recollect my class writing a composition on life before and after Corona. Yes, I'm talking about my students there. They talked about how it was a natural healing of the earth. The lockdown has had a lot of negatives, we all agree. Shutting down factories, putting the mass population worldwide out of jobs. Yes, it's sad. But when did you spend so much time playing game with your kids? Oh, yes, I can see a lot of heads nodding. Bonding with your spouses. I know men don't like going into the kitchen, but yes, they're learning to appreciate what their wives do. Saying hello to an old childhood friend after years. A social skills practical it was. Teaching us patience and respect not only for life, but nature too. Not to take things for granted, we all agree. Yes, we were grateful for the little mercies once again. Fresh air. The rainbow. Yes, thanks to the cyclone, we've all got rain in Delhi NCR, and thanks to that. Breakfast on the balcony with my family. I could go on and on. Aren't these life's practical teachings? Yes, let's come to the proof of the pudding. Recently, a research on the importance of practical activities in school science was carried out in Qatar and reinforces pragmatism. It explored how practical activities are perceived and carried out in Qatari schools and identified existing barriers and enablers for their implementation from the perspectives of science and mathematics teachers. The results show that the top barriers to effective delivery included lack of students' interest/attitude and the lack of teachers' experience in practical delivery. Results from both survey and interviews showed that practical science activities have huge significance in the learning process. They engage students, helping them to develop important skills, understand the process of scientific investigation, and develop a broad understanding of concepts. The recommendations included reduce curriculum, which I agree CBSE and ICSE really need to look at, and allocate more time on hands-on practical activities, put more emphasis on assessment of practical activities. And as we all agree, The cancellation of the 12th standard exams has really created a lot of hue and cry, a lot of parties going on today with my students too. The quality, the quantity, and breadth of practical science work carried out in the classroom should be the ultimate focus. And towards my conclusion now, having discussed the utility and importance of pragmatism, that is, practicals, in aspects of education, the take home lesson is that we educators must endeavor to incorporate the principles of pragmatism in all facets of education. Practicals need not be restricted to just worksheets, exercises, equipments, experiments, problem sums in the boring laboratories, as reiterated by my fellow panelists, that the labs are generally in a boring, shady, dirty corner of the school, which we all kind of never venture out to. They must include practical applications of the lessons in terms of life experiences, which the educator shares with the class at appropriate moments. I can proudly say I've done it, and I'm speaking from personal experience. A healthy sprinkling of such anecdotal practices not only makes the lesson more interesting, but adds tremendous value, mind you. So the next time we all prepare for a class, do envisage to add some of your life's experiences, incidents, or anecdotes to add a practical fervor to your pedagogy. This is sure to make an indelible imprint on the young minds. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think that was a wonderful presentation, some very important points there that everybody in this audience is benefiting from. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, like every other week, what we want to do is have some very senior educators discuss this topic. We are going to listen to them on their personal experiences with practicals, how practicals are part of their teaching learning process. We are privileged to have with us Mrs. Aarti Mishra. She's had a varied and vast experience in the teaching profession right since 1997. She has been associated with prestigious institutes like Ryan International School, Delhi Public School, KLE International School, and the Little Hearts Toddlers Academy. With a post-graduation in physics, she has worked within the school system, gaining experience while handling various roles and responsibilities. She has also had the opportunity to head an institute for dyslexic children. She has been conferred with 4 awards, and one of them was awarded by Smriti Irani, the then Ministry of Human Resource Development. She has been trained by CBSE to impart teachers training and was also appointed as an observer for NEET and JEE examinations. Ma'am, it's a privilege to have you back on the platform. We also have with us Mrs. Minu Sengupta, who has been an educator for the last 37 years. Currently, she is the principal of the Birla High School, Mukundapur in Kolkata. She strongly believes that students learn best by doing and that teachers should view themselves as facilitators of learning rather than as knowledge providers. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing the time and being here today. We also have with us Mr. Sanam Yeleswara Rao, who is the senior secondary principal at St. Peter's Edu School, Warangal. He has been a principal and a mathematician, a CBSE maths resource person, and an affiliation consultant. He has had 25 years of experience in CBSE, teaching mathematics, and 15 years of experience as principals of CBSE schools. Sir, thank you so much for sparing the time to be here today. I will now start my camera, switch off the share so that we can all see each other and discuss this wonderful topic. Once again, welcome to each one of you, and thank you so much for making the time. Aarti ma'am, if I may come to you first.
Thank you,
Ma'am, personally, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in your personal experience, how important have practicals been?
Practicals, fortunately for me, we had that kind of school where as a student, I could go to the practical lab and my teachers had been very, very good. And as a principal also and as a teacher also, we could take the children to the lab. We have been the fortunate ones, but there are children and schools where all of them don't have a lab in the school. If I'm not wrong, they don't know what a lab is like. They now these days you can have virtually see the instruments, you can virtually see the flask, the burette, the pipette, everything, but you cannot smell that. You cannot see the skeleton, as you said in the beginning, that as soon as you enter the lab, you see the skeleton over there. So that is the benefit that we had. Then I could do it. And I'm blessed that we could offer that to our children. And as a person, I could experience it also. That as a student, the mindset of the child changes completely. Whatever he sees, whatever he does, whatever he attributes, whatever he wants to, the questions that the child has in his or her mind as to why did this happen? How did this happen? How can I go further on with it? That kind of freedom, if the child gets, because every time you tell the child this is fire, don't touch it, the child will definitely want to experience it. So you, in the lab, you cannot say that don't touch, don't do. You don't, because you've already tested and tried everything. You have experienced everything. You know how it goes about it. So in that way, the child can be allowed to do all that, and you are there to guide him. You are there to guide her. You are there to stop if anything wrong goes on like that. So I feel that as my earlier panelist said, that a person learns how to, a child learns how to work in a team, a child learns how to respect others, a child learns, oh, this it can be done this way as well, right? That thing happens only in the lab. That cannot happen anywhere else. So practicals, one more thing I would like to add, that practicals is not only in the lab. As ma'am said, that it can be with your life experiences also. जितने सारे gray hair, उतना ज़्यादा practical. So I would want to say that you learn from your experiences. You learn from making even a single simple chapati in the kitchen as to what will make it perfect, what will make it soft, what will make it round. Can I have a chapati of a different shape? So that, these are things that we never think of. Ask a culinary expert; he will tell you, by chance this happened. By fluke, I got this. So there are similarly even scientists. In the lab, they were doing or constructing something else, and they happened to get something else. My initially, when I was a young child, we used to have the carpenter at home, and he used to bring all his auzars with him. And after he packed everything and left for the day, in the evening, everything was mine. I could see, I could go, oh, this hammer is used for hammering a nail. Oh, this is used for doing. All it was experiential learning, right? In the beginning of the session when we had it, experiential learning is the same as doing the practicals. I'll give you a small anecdote and a story. Is that Acharya The, and he had a couple of students with him. One day he said that take this bamboo sieve, and with this fill up the bucket that I give you with a source of water. He gave a source of water, he gave a bucket, he gave a bamboo sieve. So some children knew for sure that इसमें पानी कैसे भरेंगे? It'll flow out. But one of them took the sieve to the source of water and filled it, and lo and behold, the water fell off. सब चला गया. All of it, the whole thing was drained. He thought about it and said, no, this is not going to work. And he kept the sieve aside. One of the other children said, let's give it a try. The Acharya says, if this works and I can fill up the bucket, I think it should happen. So he took the sieve, he tried it once and it didn't happen. Second time and it didn't happen. All the water got drained and he kept trying and it didn't happen. The other student said, let me do it. Last tak dekhte hain kya hota hai. And he kept doing it and he kept doing it. And at the end of the day, there was no water dripping from the sieve because all the bamboo sticks had absorbed the water and they had swollen and they had filled in the gaps. So it was not a sieve anymore. It was more like a container in which water could be filled. So he was able to fill water from the source and fill the bucket instead. what I'm trying to say is that, as Achin Bhattacharya said, that practice makes it happen. Practice makes a man perfect. Children learn to practice once you get them into the lab. Children, we also learn. It's not that only the children. Many times it so happens that while you're teaching, you learn many things in the process of teaching. So it makes a child, I think, more patient. It makes the child more accepting. It makes the child more positive, that if this person can do it, so can I. It makes the child more compassionate, that okay, this is what I can do. So I think a practical work, as in the day progresses, will definitely help. And nowadays, you cannot be doing the practicals that is possible in the lab, but you can definitely be showing them. You have a huge number of lab manuals that CBSE gives you, a huge number of practicals that are available on the, definitely on the net, and notebook also offers us, and we can see that happening. We can show the children it is happening. So this is a learning experience. Of course, बहुत सारे positives हैं in the lab. You can do a whole lot of things, but I mean, it is good. It is good. Not only in science, you have practicals that can happen in the English, in the geography, in the um, math lab, and in the economics lab. A whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. Provided you call them all practicals. I call them all practicals, and I would like to end with a small anecdote, that it is not always what is to be taught. It is the inside of the person that you need to build. You need to change. You need to shift. So, as a teacher, we should do that. Thank you very much, Subayu.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I I hope when you said you end, I'm just assuming that's the answer to this question, because I do have more questions.
Yes, please.
And about the experimentation with chapatis, I now, from personal empirical evidence, I now believe chapatis are not meant to be circular. They're meant to be various different shapes. I have a sample space big enough to believe that. Mini ma'am, if I may come to you next, ma'am, with your experience with practicals, how important do you consider them to your teaching process? Mini ma'am, are you there?
Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you now. Thank
Hello.
you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you now.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I missed the question. My connection, I think, is unstable, so I've switched off my video. So just could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, ma'am. The question was, how important are practicals to your teaching process?
Oh, they are, like everybody has been saying, that they are extremely important. Important skills such as collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, empathy. I think, unless children are involved in practicals, it is not, it's easiest to be achieved. These skills can be obtained if the children are allowed to do practicals. The narrative can be changed from can I to I can. So it gives the child the confidence that yes, he or she can do it. The child feels, imagines, does, shares. So, and like our first speaker said, that I read, I forget, I see, I remember, and I do, and I understand. And that understanding, it remains with the child for always. Instead of repeating what I think most of my co-panelists have said, I would like to say one thing, that NCERT has come up with this, the National Education Policy 2020. It gives us a lot of hope. It has advocated 10 bagless days in a year, where children will intern with local vocational experts, so be it gardeners or potters or carpenters or artists, etc. So which will be a wonderful thing because, children really get hands-on experience. And like Mr. Bhattacharya said, that, going to the lab and doing an experiment is one thing where you know what the inference is going to be. And sometimes if I remember correctly, as a child, we knew what the inference is going to be. And then we would do the experiment and arrive at that inference. So which I think, really didn't serve the purpose. So what is important, I think, today is, I'll try and switch on my video. What is important, I think, today is something like a tinkering lab, where children are allowed to take risks, where they are just let, you allow them to be and allow them to experiment, allow them to take risks, allow them to make mistakes. And that is something that I think very few schools do. And we must have the courage to be able to do that. Of course, concepts cannot be made concrete unless the children have access to doing practicals. And though, of course, in recent time, because of the online teaching, there has been a lot of restrictions, but thankfully, there are so many avenues available for children online that even experimenting, where you can really, the reactions can be controlled and you can see what happens. And sometimes these are safer, much safer than actually the child doing it, because you cannot allow the child to mix a certain acid with another acid, etc. And, the whole thing can blow up. Whereas children can experiment. So that is also one way of doing it. The maths lab is, we use it extensively in our schools. So children, they use origami. So the teacher, we have this maths teacher who will ask them to make a penguin. And, the different types of angles that are made by when the child is made, when those are, so these are things which will remain with the child forever, and they have a connect with the child's, concretizes the learning that the child has. So I feel even, measuring, weighing, these are things which children really enjoy, and they learn a lot from it. Younger children in our school, at least our teachers have been doing, everything is concretized. So for example, if they're learning the letters of the alphabet, so you give them Play-Doh, and the child is making the letters with the dough. So, or tracing it on rice, or tracing it on sand. So which really, allows the child to really understand and have a like experiential learning, form a connect between why he is learning or she is learning a certain concept and what its, practical use is going to be, especially for mathematics. Because very often people feel that mathematical concepts are very, very vague and you can't really have a connect. Why am I learning this? So unless we can concretize it for the children, I think, the child does not get that connect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Every session, so we've had, this is the 104th. Every session, the one feeling that I'm left with is that I should have been born a lot later, because schooling has definitely become a lot more fun since I went to school. Mr. Rao, if you may come back to you. Sir was our panelist towards the absolute beginning of the journey. I think our third episode, we had Sir as a panelist. Sir, it's a privilege to welcome you back to the 104th.
Thank you, sir.
So it's the same question to you, sir. How important, being a maths teacher, how is important are practicals to you?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to that notebook, and thanks to that all the panelists, my question, they given the answer to that before only. But I try to give that some more related answers with my experience. So recently I saw that one picture, that is that Mangalyaan. Why I give this word here, the Mangalyaan, is the lab is that our home, first of all. Kitchen is starting with that so many experiments. So kitchen is that, already madam told that kitchen is that our lab. And chapati experiments, you told that also. So Mangalyaan, once you can say that Mangalyaan, the aim of the Mangalyaan starts from the kitchen. So like that, today, luckily, from Gully to Delhi, all schools are having the labs, but somewhat the remote, somewhat the main cause, the labs still not fulfilled in India. Okay, required that more focus on the lab technologies as well as that lab theories, and experimental applications also required more focus in teaching and learning applications. So first of all, we can see that a regular system of CBSE. So luckily, until 2019, 2020, before that, what is the CBSE focusing that after the 2022 until today, luckily we get that so many applications in the CBSE practical theory. That is that online labs introduced.
I think Sir lost power. We'll just wait for him to join back. Well, while we are waiting, I will just move on to the next question. And here I'm being the devil's advocate. Sonia ma'am, please also feel free to jump in whenever you want. We want to keep this discussion very fluid as far as possible. Now, I find it very difficult to wrap my head around concepts like English lab and maths lab because they don't come very naturally to me. If you're writing English, that's what we were doing in class in any case. So have we gone a little too far? Are there just too many labs now? Or have we started naming a lot of our just normal learning process labs? Or am I just wrong?
If I may answer that? Yeah, sorry, please.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. So, Shubhayu, when you talk about English labs, per se, I am not as an English teacher because I come from a science background and I have also done the first batch of NIIT, as my post-graduation. Later on, went on to do my education post-graduation. I really appreciate you saying that wish you were born now because I totally agree. I think that's my thoughts too, that now, a teacher is not pointing out the child's mistakes. It's the opposite. The teacher has to highlight the student's positives to get him to love her subject. I think all my panelists will agree. So we've gone beyond teaching the children as to what to do. It's we just being facilitators. We are providing them a platform, and we just, they know it all. For example, when it comes to computers or even using Zoom, whenever I get stuck, it's my kids who get me out of it, And even a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, when they're there as part of my online classes, they are much better. Exactly why? Because they've all got hands-on right from day one. Of course, we all will totally say that it's a big no giving a mobile to a small child or giving a computer or an iPad, It's all the time. They have so much of screen time that, the other day, some parents were telling me, ma'am, how do I, reduce the screen time for my child in today's time? And believe you me, this could be another topic for our webinar. How do teachers take up this challenging job of reducing screen time? And I really put my mind to it that, okay, I really need to, research on this, because when I myself and all my panelists agree, we are all into online digital formatting, and I don't know when this corona is going to go away, the way the things are. Why should we say it's only in India? It's worldwide. We have to bring teaching to the child, and this is the only way. This is the only phenomena that kind of, I think, is proving itself to be really useful. Thank God that we've got computers. Also, I would like to highlight a point that when we talk about millennials, the age group we are teaching now, the children who are in school, their attention span is really, really less. This is wherein hands-on experiential teaching and learning is so mandatory. Because, they totally will not listen to someone going blah, 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 blah. You know, the other day, one of my child in class yawned. And when I said, okay, excuse me, so and so, are you tired? And would you want to go and wash your face? I'll take a break. It's okay. And I'll probably just talk in to the other four. The answer was like, what happened today? No PPT and no games today, ma'am? Because probably the content that day was a little heavy. So I wanted to do the text part and then come to the, you know, the activity part. So this was his reply, you know, which got me thinking that, okay, it doesn't work like that, what it was for us. I remember, Shubhayu, my history lesson, the fact that I never became a social sciences person. You know, after the 10th, I did not have social studies. And when I talked to my friends, why did I take up science? Not that I was too brainy in, you know, physics. Mathematics, I think most of us will agree, was my Waterloo. My history teacher would read from the book. Plain reading she would enter. Oh, she was very beautiful looking. She would really dress up, as in really dress up, you know, with a lovely bindi and everything. But whenever she would open the book, she would read. And the last 5 minutes would be the question answers, because no one dared to, or no one was interested in interrupting her. I think I would say my total hate would be a very strong word, but I lost interest in history. And when I got married, my mother-in-law is a postgraduate in history, you know. So whenever we both would talk, she would ask me like, okay, why? You married in the army, you're traveling so much. Like, you know, luckily, or I would say I'm fortunate that I traveled to 13 countries. So history's been an inseparable part of my life now, I would say. You know, I went to Egypt and we were living on the banks of the Nile. So everything came back. But her face was something that drove me away from history. I think I can proudly say, Shubhayu, that probably narrating my anecdotes from life, when I was doing Zumba classes, I made it a point at a given time. I was teaching geography in St. Joseph's. The sister that requested me that, ma'am, you know, we don't have a geography teacher. So I would study and then teach geography to the 8th standard, mind you, and geography in the 8th is quite a lot. It's not so simple. So we were talking about Australia and, you know, maybe the Great Barrier Reef, and, you know, we were traveling continents. That history teacher's face was always and always in my mind. I made it a point to move around the class, you know, to make them talk. I gave topics to my children to prepare and talk about. Maybe, you know, a travel log, maybe a place which was in their dreams. Like Mona Lisa was a topic which girls love to speak about. So, you know, Paris, they wanted to visit Paris. So, okay, whenever they would, you know, they would. So I would also like to add one of my 12th standard students. I mean, they're all in touch with me. So just was messaging me yesterday when I circulated my webinar, this thing as told by Gagori, that ma'am, please circulate so that, you know, we have more people benefiting. So I did circulate to my children. And she was recollecting even yesterday, it's been 7 years since I last taught her in the 8th. And yes, she was very happy for the 12th exams to get cancelled, because now she would have been appearing for the 12th. Oh, she's a 95%er. So like, not that it worried her, but she was recollecting, and like, you know, one line which really makes my day, or like, I think that's like I would say, my energy drink is that, ma'am, we've never had lessons more interesting after you left. So maybe I let them do what they wanted to do. I was more of like friends, and yes, I gave them hands-on experience. And like ma'am before me, when she added that practicals are not only in the lab, I would, whenever it was a boring geography module, I would take them out under the tree, and we would all, I remember doing UN, you know, about the United Nations. And yes, my children used the bushes and the branches, and when they made the UN symbols for the various, you know, branches of UNICEF, UNO, WHO. And mind you, a geography, which was a hated subject in school, they all started getting in 90s. And mind you, coming from a student who's left geography after the 10th. So maybe whatever I didn't get, I wasn't lucky enough to get, I tried to fill in those gaps and the loopholes and, try to make it interesting and fun-loving classes for my children. So I wish all of us can do that,
Wonderful, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mini ma'am, you were saying something about if you have gone overboard with too many labs and too many subjects.
I don't think so. Like like Mrs. Behel just told us that the practical, there's nothing better than a practical experience. So when you go into a lab, you know that you're going to do something, and that is when children really that they are interested, they learn a lot, and that learning, I feel, is permanent. Because truly, when you are being spoken to, after some time you lose interest. You cannot hear for any particular. So we all know about the 40-minute lessons then when we actually have been sleeping with our eyes open. Whereas in a practical class, that doesn't happen. When I'm doing something, I'm interested. But of course, like I said, that we have to be very careful that we do not have doctored practicals where the outcomes are known. Because then that is a useless exercise. That is just an exercise in vain. So if we can do that, nothing like it. So whether it is a geography lab, whether in our school, the maths lab is a hub of activity because we have a lot of equipment. So we have this kit and the Ramanujan kit and this and the other. And so everything right from, trigonometry to simple math additions to abacus, everything is taught through, the child learns through doing. So hence it concretizes their learning. And I think it's wonderful. It provides a base. Similarly, the language lab also, it gives you a lot of, experience in, especially if it's a foreign language, that would be, a language lab is, I don't think you cannot teach language by sitting in a classroom and not really experimenting or hearing out or listening to a native speaking, so which is not always possible. So a language lab provides that opportunity. You have a recorder, you can record your own voice, you can hear, you can be corrected, etc.
Wonderful, ma'am. Sanam, sir, we lost connectivity with you for a bit. I hope it's better now.
Our problem.
Yes, sir. I'll just come back to you with the same question as you were saying earlier, but sir, with a specific focus on how do you see math labs working out? Are they useful? Because you're a maths expert.
Yes, math labs very useful for that students, what out maybe the level right from first class to up to 12th standard level. With the math labs, we get so many solutions, so many unexplained theories inside the classroom. We can solve that easily in the math lab. So what my experience is in the mathematics, as a mathematics teacher in while teaching that 8th, 9th, 10th, and most of the theories, theory part, as well as that theorems, I explained rather than in the class, in the lab very well. Because in the lab, so many things will be available, and it is easy to explain that connectivity, one topic to other topic, why it is useful, that all the things. For a small example, we can say that I think everybody feel somewhat burden regarding this mathematical terminology. Coming to the geography to that mathematics. What is the link with the geography to the mathematics? While teaching the 10th standard, simply we can say similar triangles. And maps are based on the similar triangles, and that map technology in the geography is based on the mathematics. The scale, K value, we can say that K factor is very, very important. It's unable to explain the inside the classroom. So that's why we can take it to the lab and explain that very clearly, similar triangles experiment that is as easily connected to the geography. So that's why labs are used to that so much integration application to that each and every subject. No doubt at all. It's not only mathematics, not only science, not only social, not only any other part. So lab is a lab. Labs used to that integration to that every subject. That's my fundamental application. I apply that very clearly in the school. Wherever we can go to that inside that science lab, or else in a social lab, or else in a language lab, we are integrated to each and everything. But our names are different. but definitely we can integrate the concept from one lab to another lab. So the student will be carries the same part to that this lab to the other lab, and it creates somewhat enthusiastic them, and they can involve that more and more. And the same thing we can take it to the real life experiments also. Same application you can convert into the real life experiment. So that's why when you go to the home, they can try to do that home as a lab. So that's the reason today our students are getting so much knowledge rather than that last 5 years, 4 years back, what they're doing that. At present, they're doing the best and best experiments based on this type of integrated applications. And one more very important thing is that CBSE provide that this year best opportunity to integrate it along with the NEP 2020. So that integration of applications we adapted last 2 years onwards. So Kitchen Lab is one of the very important application. That one more application we introduced that is that think and do. Think and do. Why? Because that without question, there is no thinking. So first we can think about that question, automatically get the answer. So answers are there. Somewhere else answers are there. We require the question. Once we can raise the question, we can search for that way and go to the lab and did the experiment and get the solution. That's the answer. That's it. Simple application. First think and do. For thinking required a question. Similar application applied that say so many days onwards, the earlier days to nowadays. We can see that apple fall down. Think, where is the question raises there? Then immediately went to the lab and generated the new things, universal gravitation force. On the inside the kitchen, rice cooking, when the plate is going up and down, immediately it went to that lab and convert as a jet engine. So many things. By observing the nature, we can get the questions. So by observing the nature, getting that birds, then immediately came to the lab and convert into the aeroplanes. So that is the reason. First, you can see that question. Based on the question, you can think and you can do inside the lab. We can get so many new things and so many things coming up in coming days. That's it.
Thank you so much, sir. Aarti ma'am, I'll come to you. Given your experience with an institution which taught dyslexic students, how does practicals translate to children with special needs?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I had a lovely experience with those children because they had the liberty to walk in and out of class whenever they felt like, because making them sit in a classroom, making them forcefully follow instructions and follow rules and all that was not up to them. So they could just, so one fine day, one of the boys came into, I think the boys, Ninad Ghoshal, he came into our office and he's telling me, ma'am, the other day, Dinah ma'am was teaching me what fractions are about. I said, yeah. What did you eat in the class? He said, we had pizza and we also had an apple. So we cut the pizza and we cut the apple to 4 pieces and all that, and we had it. So I said, but finally I got the answer today. It's not cutting that teaches fraction, it is joining. If 2 halves I make, bring it together, I'll get 1. I was like, wow. What we teach the children is we always teach them to cut. So you get, when you cut 1, you get 2 halves. And when you cut into 4, you get 4 1/4 and all that. I said, he's talking about bringing it together. We never teach them to bring things together and join and bring one whole. So it was a different thing. Once there was a chaos in the whole school. We were running around trying to catch hold of one boy, and he said, I have learned to write S today. Small little things were so important for them, very, very important. And that is when it was a very, very humbling experience. I remember parents used to come in to the school with the children. The children used to come in. There are very few children in each class. And they used to say, आज मेरी बेटी ने ये किया, आज मेरी बेटी ने ये सीखा. That that is the point, that is the time it is to hit me. How blessed we are to be whole and complete. A little bit of, and we whine all the time and we complain all the time. And today, with the pandemic, we have realized how difficult it is for people who lose people, for people who have the disease, for people who go through a very difficult time of financial crisis, who have school crisis, who have lots of things. But we need to thank everybody, our parents, our teachers, everybody, for the little things that we have in life and the little achievements that we make. Choti choti khushiyan hame kahan se kahan se. And that dyslexic school that I worked in and the children that I worked in is going to stay with me for life. They taught me various things, especially the one bringing together and making a whole. You can relate it to a whole lot of things that is possible over there, a whole lot of things, including that the children used to come up to the teachers and say, ma'am, whatever you're wearing today is not matching. Whatever you, I mean, they had the freedom to talk to you the way it was. And we didn't stop them from anything. We didn't stop them because expression was was accepted with us. Outside, the expression was not accepted for them. So any kind of, we had an occupational therapist working with us over there. Every day we had a new experience. Every day. There are many times that every hour we had a new experience with every child that was coming in. So it was lovely working with them, and the blessings that you can count after you met those parents and the children that you met was. So I thank God for that. Thank you, Shubhai, for the question itself.
Ma'am, it's our privilege to have these thoughts expressed on this platform. I mean, this has been a absolutely out of the world experience for me. The one last question, because we are really out of time, and I'll cover this as quickly as I can. During this pandemic, practicals have not happened as they were, right? How have you coped best with it? Mini ma'am, if I may start with you.
Like I said, that in our school we have done. Actually, my school is a new school. It's 3 years old, so we have only up to class 8. But we believe in practicals, not as practicals for the board or anything like that, but otherwise also everything that is taught is, practice. I mean, the child gets a practical hands-on experience for it. So here, like I told you earlier also, that even a little child nursery, so whatever they did, say they were learning the alphabet, the letter of the alphabet L, I mean the letter L. So they, so the teacher, it is pronounced as, the sound it makes is L. So lemonade. So the children would make lemonade in the classroom. And so it would be great fun in the sense that everybody would, in front of the camera, they would all bring in their little bottles and lemon and etc. have you, and then they'll mix it and then they'll drink it and they'll talk about it, experience it, etc. So these are the kind of things. So this is in the lower classes. In the higher classes, like I said, that origami would be used, and so to teach different angles, that would be a way of doing it. A lot of simulations the older children have done. So for chemistry, for biology, for physics, etc. So there are these virtual labs available. So where the teachers have taken them. There also we use virtual reality and augmented reality. Our teachers have been trained in digital, to help them in digital teaching. So a lot of apps or sites they visit. So there's something called Nearpod, there's Google Earth, etc. So the children have been taken to right from the Louvre to the Taj Mahal to they've really to the various zoos and the city museums in the country, in the world they have traveled. So that has been another kind of practical experience. So though of course it's not really hands-on for the child, but of course the child gets a little, feels that there is this experience. But a lot of hands-on activities like growing a plant, photosynthesis. You know, they have done through simulations. So a lot of apps available, lot of artificial intelligence. Of course, now our teachers are going through another training session. They are being trained how to use artificial intelligence in the classroom. So they are using a lot of it, and I mean, and the children are awed by this, and they love it. So there's this virtual reality. I think many of you may or may not know, where the teacher is able to bring a dinosaur into her room, or a cow, or whatever. So we've also done this. Geography teachers have tried to do the solar system. So you can bring the solar system to the room where the teacher is, and so it's a lot of this kind of thing which has happened, because though this is not the best thing, but this has to be now. There is no other way. We can do it the other way. So this has been a savior. So we've used these kind of things. And of course, a lot of hands-on activities that like, for example, just like I said, growing plants, or, making the children made toys out of waste material. So these are things that, because children have a lot of energy. So they need to do things instead of just sit and listen and see.
Wonderful, ma'am. It's so good to hear about schools and what the things they've done during this pandemic. And looking back,
hats off to the teachers. I really hats off to the teachers. They really experimented and explored and come up with fantastic stuff.
I think that has been our biggest learning on this platform, the stuff that teachers have done, the innovation that they've brought to the table. And part of me wants to believe that this pandemic, for everything negative that it brought to us, it has pushed our education system ahead at a pace that a jet engine could not. Thank you so much, ma'am. Rao sir, if I may come to you with the same question, sir, your school specific to practicals during the lockdown. Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Online labs by CBSE and MHRD, we are using that. And similarly, so many platforms, online platforms, we are using that to teach that students at present in this pandemic situation. So really, I'm saying that one side is COVID is given to that so much bad results to that country as well as that world. But for that education field also it's given the bad result. But one side, what I'm saying is that it gives to the new scope to that Indian education system, especially this type of lab experiments and teaching the students continuously 24/7. We are there behind you. Previously, up to 9 to 4 only the student and teacher interactive session is there. After that, 4 o'clock, there is no connectivity. Again 9 o'clock, we are waiting for the student what they're doing and what they're not doing. We can verify that. But fortunately, what happened because of COVID, 24/7, there is no gap between the teacher and student. That is one more thing, very important thing this is. And the labs are, we are in our school, we are conducting that online labs very clearly, and we conducted 12th class experiments also very by God grace, we completed 12th class experiments. And 2 more dyslexia students are there. For the 2 more dyslexia students also, we conducted in different skill-based subjects. This is, I am going to give that one more notice that those who are skill-based dyslexia students, God going to give that best skill inside them, no doubt at all. While manufacturing defect somewhere else is there, but there is one side is a good skill is there inside the dyslexia students. My student in 10th standard, he can work better than me in the computer, but he unable to write, he unable to speak, he unable to look at the figure more than 10 to 15 minutes. But he can design that today coding and decoding so better than that any others. So better than he is the dyslexia student. There is no mathematics, he know anything at all, but coding and decoding that much highly he can do it. So that is that God gave that gift to them. So I believe that skill-based subjects, thanks to CBSE, given the so many scopes to the students who learn that, especially for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th classes, 11th and 12th classes. That's it.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Aarti ma'am, same question to you. Lockdown, no labs. What are you doing about practicals?
I want to go to school. All of us are waiting for the schools to open, especially the children. We have a lot of things that the teachers are doing in the class, just like Mini ma'am said, lemonade. Similarly, for everything that happens in class, children are prepared. And kudos to the parents as well. They are also prepared and they also help their children do everything that's possible. A simple thing as World Environment Day is now approaching. Last year also we had offline World Environment Day. We asked the children, okay, you take a sapling, and if you take a plant which can be just planted just like that, you don't need seeds for that, you don't need a sapling for that, because children are not allowed to go outside the house. You name it, adopt a plant, name it, call it whatever, जो भी नाम रखें आप उसका नाम रखिए, sow the plant, water it every day, and spend time with your plant. Spend some time with your plant, doing whatever, and click pictures of whatever you do and post it to me so that I know that something is happening. Second, we did an environment day was to, whether you have waste paper, newspaper, magazine, or something that you have at home, make a bag out of it. And you can gift it to people. Make a mask. This is possible only if the children knew how to stitch on the machine or whatever, but make it. Banaiye. Unless you do it, you will not know, because children these days don't know how to hold the needle as well. But you could do it, because you have to use that. You have to know how to do it. That was one thing. Aajkal, so Sanam sir will agree with me. We have in mathematics, we have estimation, 3rd and 4th standard. You have how heavy, light. How do you do it? How do you do it? So tarazu banaiye. The weighing scale can be made with various things. You can have 2 paper cups you can make it with. You can have paper plates you can make it with. You can make a thonga. When we were kids, we used to have it in the train filled with peanuts. And that you could make, which is heavier, which is light, with the weight could be how much. Nowadays, it's very easy. Just put it on the weighing scale and you will know. But you will not be able to estimate how much it is. So those things are coming back. I shouldn't say coming back. The math teachers will kill me for that. But they used to do it before. They're doing it even now. But it's extremely interesting, especially for the children who have never done this before. वो करते हुए इतने अच्छे लगते हैं, इतनी खुशी उनके चेहरे पे दिखती है. And that's when I feel that I should go back to school. That's when I feel I should go back to school, because then I can see them happy. And teaching has to be fun. Teaching has to be fun. School has to be fun. School can never be a burden. Should never be a burden. I have to go to school. I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It should not be like that. It should be fun at all times. Practicals help you plan your class. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what the children are going to react or respond like. How do I answer that response? What will be the next thing? So this prepares you mentally for whatever is going to happen. And then you as a teacher are prepared. The best thing in my life, Shubha, it is different for everybody, has happened is that I chose to become a teacher. And it was a choice. On Teachers' Day, I love it. I tell you, I love it. Because जो आपको इज्जत दी जाती है, जो आपको प्यार दिया जाता है, what you feel is out of this world. Out of this world. I am sure other panelists will agree with me. I am sure you will agree with me. because it is mind blowing. What you get by teaching a child. Sanam sir, am I right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
All of us, right, ma'am, sorry ma'am, it is brilliant being a teacher and getting the children to see what, and giving them the freedom to speak the way you do is that's the practicals that we try and do in the classroom with the little children also, the nursery and the pre-primary children also, we try and do it, and the senior masses also we try and do it. And it's a different experience, a different thing for all of them. And getting, one thing I told my children to do is that you do have, I'm sorry, but rotis happen to be my favorite things. Roti banate hain na ghar mein, kitchen mein jaiye.
I think stuck up, madam, sir.
Yes, I think we were stuck by network at a very bad time,
Yeah.
right mid-sentence.
Are we out of time, Subayu, or we have?
Kind of, ma'am. We actually overshot our time by about 15
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you all so much. I have loved being a part of this. Achin, you'll have quite a bit to thank for. So let me ask you to come back for the vote of
Out the map of India,
once again.
if not anything else. And they
Come back.
I think, I'm sorry, we lost your connectivity back there. I was just inviting Achin back for the vote of thanks.
yes, please. I will
Yes,
go on
ma'am.
talking.
Thank you, ma'am. Over to you, Achin.
I think really a great session we had, Shubhayu. No doubt about it. I thank all our esteemed panelists for their time and for their thought leadership. So the way I look at this session, it had all the ingredients that we expect from our Together for Education sessions, and I'm sure members of our esteemed audience as well, educators here, found this very value adding. It was seamless. It was filled with so much of practical experience, heartfelt, value adding, and with so much of positivity, which is so important in today's difficult times. Bharat sir, thank you as always for giving us a great flying start and for being our mentor. I think really very nicely you brought up on set the tone for the day with regard to your deliberations. Thank you indeed, sir. Sonia ma'am, I think great presentation. I think I really thank you for putting this all together.
Thank you so
And
much.
also for sharing the case study with regard to Pratar. What really stays with us, ma'am, in terms of your deliberation is, I think you very beautifully put it, in terms of sharing your own example with regard to your history lessons. And the fact that, yes, indeed, we are all with you. And together we take this pledge that, let's really make learning more engaging, more fun, and work hand in hand to ensure that curiosity is developed. So maybe things which are getting better, with each passing day, let's really ensure that we give better experience to our children, far better than what we actually got. And I think you were completely correct when you made this point. I am completely with you on that. Mini ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us here today. I think I really like the way you started, and I couldn't agree more. The change in attitude from can I to I can, I think that really sums it up. Wonderful attitude. I must compliment you for that. That is so important. And also, I think you also touched upon another very important aspect, the fact that we really need to give our children the freedom, the flexibility, and give them the courage that, yes, they can go ahead, experiment, and make mistakes. Error is only human, but still support them through that, take risks, and be with them. I think that is really important, and we are all with you on that. Rao sir, thank you so much, sir, for being with us. I think I really like the way you deliberated on integration. That is so important. Integration between subjects, between topics, and a wonderful example in terms of math and geography coming together, in terms of maps, in terms of explaining that K factor. Indeed, and also I like the fact that the positive side of what we have been going through for the last 15 months, at least as far as schooling goes, the fact that education has become so round the clock, the fact that so much of interaction has increased between teachers and students, as you rightly mentioned, that earlier you used to wait for the first bell. But now, indeed, teachers and students are far more in touch. So, sir, we are completely with you on that. Aarti ma'am, thank you so much. I really liked your kitchen. Indeed, it's something very close to our heart. And indeed, that is a place where a child really learns, first steps with regard to his or her learning in terms of, seeing hands-on how things are put together to make something much better. And also, I think I really like the way, the experience you shared of children, the way they understand, the way they perceive fractions, the fact that bringing pieces together, I think that is the need of the hour. Whether you look at our society, and also very beautifully you summed up, choti choti khushiyan. So indeed, this is the need of the hour, to bring all these small pieces of happiness together to form a much, much better and beautiful world. So we are completely with you on that. And also we are with you when you say that I want to go back to school. I think that's something that all school children, and indeed, as a nation, we are proud to have the highest number of school children in the world, even more than China. And I'm sure all those children who are missing their friends, missing their teachers, missing their playgrounds, and I'm sure all of them join you. And as does our esteemed educators, when you say you want to go back to school. We look forward with so much of hope, optimism, and euphoria. So I thank all of you for your time. I also thank members of the esteemed audience for their time here today. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.